This is Smart Poker Study episode 171, Managing Stress and Having a Bring It On Attitude. Did you catch the last Q&A episode number 170? I sure hope so, because I discussed the statistical powerhouse duo of VPIP and PFR. Alrighty, it's poker study time, y'all. Happy New Year. Thank you very much to all the returning poker peeps. I appreciate you sticking with me into 2018. And for anybody new to the podcast, I'm glad you found the show. If you get any benefit at all from today's episode, please spread the good word. So just after Christmas, me and the boys, we went to go see The Last Jedi, and it was a fun movie. We really enjoyed it a lot. But, prior to going, I saw on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics were giving it 90%. And the audience was liking it at just 50%. What a crazy, you just don't often see that. You often see the critics really low and the audience liking a movie high. This one was opposite of that. And it just blew my mind. Ahead of time, going into the movie, it blew my mind. But then after coming out of the movie, sure, it had some great action, some great special effects. Everything looked believable. I like seeing, I don't want to give you any spoilers. I like seeing some of the, not visual effects, or what are they called? Like practical effects, I mean to say. I like seeing some of those practical effects, puppets and stuff, it's pretty cool. But overall, I really don't like it when characters do things that just make absolutely no sense. And I really don't like it when stories take a turn and characters go off on a journey, or a character makes choices that end up not affecting the story at all. There were two really big instances of characters doing something that, sure, on the surface it looked good, it looked like it would lead to something big, but that stuff could have just been skipped entirely. The story would have just ended up being exactly where it was had they not gone on that adventure. I don't want to give any spoilers or anything, but the movie was 2 hours and 40 minutes long. You could have cut out those two different things I'm talking about. One was with Poe Dameron, and the other one was with Finn and Rose. And, seriously, skip that, save 40 minutes of the movie, save millions of dollars in budget, and end up with the exact same product with the exact same storyline. The exact same people living, the same people dying, the same bad guys dying and living. I mean, everything would have been exactly the same had they not gone off on those two journeys. So for Star Wars fans like me, long-term fans like me, I can understand why we would rate it, or why we would, enjoy it at 50%. Whereas critics might like how, whatever the critics, I don't know. I ain't no critic, and I would never want to be a critic, but whatever. For whatever reason, they like it at 90%, audience likes it at 50%, and I totally understand it. I am happy that I watched it, though, because I did have a good time with my boys going there. But there's something that I'm even more happy about, and that's all my Patreon supporters. Thank you so very much. We started the year off right with 26 people supporting on Patreon, and they are getting some great podcast and training video rewards for their support. Every week, new poker people are supporting, and I really do love it. This week, I want to thank Lou Descalzo for supporting me on Patreon. He actually did it a few weeks ago, just before that last episode was posted, in 2017. But you might remember Lou on the last podcast Q&A. He asked one of the questions, and I talked about him as being Poker Dad on YouTube. So if you haven't checked him out yet, go to his channel. Just search Poker Dad. He puts up brand new content almost every single day. Talks about hand history, shows some of his play, talks about his goals recently in a video, goals for 2018 in a video. And so Lou Descalzo, thank you very much for supporting me, and I hope that channel keeps growing and growing on YouTube. And your Patreon support shows me that you enjoy the show and that you want it to continue. If you'd like to support the show, go to patreon.com/smartpokerstudy. patreon.com/smartpokerstudy. There are different levels of support with different rewards attached, and January's rewards are coming out next week. The podcast will be titled 2 post-flop plays that I love and 1 to grow on. And the training video is going to be called Using My HUD Before Every Decision. So once you begin your support on Patreon, you'll get the current month's reward as well as access to the archive of patron-only content. So for just a few bones a month, often less than one tournament buy-in, you'll be supporting the show and receive some valuable information or valuable poker content in return. So visit patreon.com/smartpokerstudy to start that support. Alrighty, let's get to it. We're going to talk about stress. We're going to talk about having a bring it on attitude. We're going to talk about resilience, and I'll give you some great self-help recommendations. Please visit the show notes page for everything I discussed today at www.smartpokerstudy.com/pod171. Alrighty, let's do this. Gambate!
This is damn exciting stuff.
So everyone suffers from stress. Some, of course, more frequently than others. I feel like I don't stress out too much, but there's always a little bit of stress floating around there for me. I'm raising kids, trying to be a good husband, this whole poker podcast and book writing thing, outside commitments and friends, getting shot at while I'm on the paintball field. There's stress around. But I'm not going to get too heady or deep into stress. The biggest reason for that is I don't feel qualified enough to tell people how to handle their stress. It's such an individual thing. I'm not just going to give you some advice and say, you've got to do this. Instead, like I said about this whole mindset series of podcasts for the Poker Mindset MED, I'm doing this from a working man's perspective. So I'm just going to tell you how I deal with stress. And there are 4 different ways that I work to avoid stress. The first is I try not to let things out of my control affect my emotions. So there's a great quote in relation to this. I've given it to you before, but I'll say it again. It's from a book called Wizard and Glass by Stephen King. One of the characters named Court says this to the future gunslinger. He says, "Control what you can control, maggot, and let everything else take a flying fuck at you. And if you must go down with your guns blazing." I can't tell you how many times that quote goes through my head on a daily basis. At least every session that I play poker, it's there. And oftentimes when I'm dealing with something that's causing me stress or causing some anger or rising emotions in my life, quotes help me inject logic into my rising emotions to quell them, to control them. And that is one of my favorite quotes. The second thing I do to avoid stress is I practice mindfulness. Now, mindfulness is being present in whatever's going on right now and not letting emotions or random thoughts enter into the fray. We often put stress on ourselves by thinking about the past. Maybe we're thinking about problems in the present, or we're thinking about future problems. Practicing mindfulness through an activity like meditation, that's how I work to stay in the present and to try to avoid letting worries take over my mind. There are plenty of ways to meditate, to practice meditation, and the easiest that I've found is using apps on my smartphone. I talked about it last time, but I'm really into the Calm, C-A-L-M, the Calm app right now. This morning, I completed 44 days in a row, and it's not exactly a big accomplishment, but I set out to meditate every single morning 44 days ago. And hey, I'm doing it, so I'm happy about that. I think meditation helps me stay calm in the face of stress and rising emotions. The third way that I practice avoiding stress is by going with the STOP method. It's an acronym, and the S in STOP stands for just that. Stop. You want to stop and realize that you're going through some kind of emotion or stressful situation. Something is causing you to react in a negative way. This is the first step in getting beyond it. The T in STOP stands for take a breath. This is a great practice, not just for quelling emotions, but also at the poker table before every big decision you make. Taking a breath helps to calm the mind and to get you thinking logically and critically about the situation you're in. The O stands for observe. You want to be present in the situation. Observe the emotion and determine why you're feeling it. Are you stressed because you're stopped at another red light on your way home from work? Are you stressed because your friend is dumping all their problems on you? You've got to know what's causing the issue before you can move beyond it. That brings us to the P in STOP, proceed. Now that you know what's causing the stress, you could proceed and get beyond this moment. If it's something out of your control, realizing that will help you to just accept it. If it's in your control, you can now make a change, solve the problem, and proceed on with your day or the rest of your life. And the fourth way I avoid stress is by thinking of the solution, not the problem. Too many people encounter a problem and they just dwell on it. They let it stress them out and be like a super big drag on their life. Instead, understand the problem and working through it to find a solution would be a better tact. This is taking a more proactive approach. Maybe you have a friend that really stresses you out. They call you every night and burden you with the problems they have with their work or their spouse or their kids or something. And because you're a good friend, you talk to them and you empathize with them every single night. Eventually, You realize that every time the phone rings, your heart starts to beat and your breath gets short. You dread answering the phone and you say to yourself, "Damn it, what's it going to be this time?" It's pretty obvious that all this talking has not helped your friend get beyond their problems. Here are some possible solutions for you. It could be as simple as not picking up the phone every single night, maybe every 2 or 3 nights when they call. Just because the phone rings doesn't mean you have to pick it up. Or you could tell your friend honestly what their burdens are doing to you and the stress it's causing in your own life. And in extreme circumstances, you may have to just drop the friendship. So, related to dealing with stress is having resilience to life's failures. You know how some people fall off a horse and never get back on for fear of falling off again? This happens in many ways. Maybe we invest in a stock. It plummets. We lose all our money and vow to never enter the stock market again. Or maybe we go surfing for the first time, take a huge tumble, and breathe in like a gallon of seawater. We get to the beach, and we're retching, and we're barfing. Seawater's coming out of our sinuses and our eyeballs, and we vow to never surf again. By not doing something when we encounter a little bit of failure, we could be missing out on a huge benefit, on maybe some kind of like life-changing outcomes that could happen if we had continued with it. In order to not let failure affect us, we need to have an attitude of resilience. There's an old Japanese proverb that I like. Fall 7 times, get up 8. If you have resilience, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down. You realize that the pursuit that you're in, whether it's investing, surfing, poker, riding horses, whatever, it's worth it to you. When you fall off that horse, when the stock market craps on you, when your aces get cracked, just accept it and get right back into the fray. You know, I love that old joke. It goes, "Why don't you stop smoking?" And the answer, "Because I ain't no quitter." That's right. Don't be a quitter. Have that winning attitude. And kind of in relation to resilience and having a winning attitude is having a bring it on attitude. One of my favorite movies growing up was Mr. Baseball with Tom Selleck. In the movie, Tom Selleck is a pro baseball player who hits a major slump and he gets traded to the Chunichi Dragons in Japan. He ends up going and getting his groove back just like Stella did. Anyway, midway through the movie, it's a sexy bath scene and he's telling his new girlfriend his greatest fear. Let me play it for you.
Tell me, what is the deepest fear? We will wash it away.
My deepest fear?
Yes.
Well, we were at Boston. We're down 3-1, and I'm walking up to the plate. You know, there's 2 men on. And somebody yells, "Hey, Jack, come on, park it." And I heard him. And I'm ready, you know, I'm just standing there staring at my bat like I do, you know. And I remember at that exact moment thinking, don't miss. Just don't miss. My whole life, I wanted to hit the ball, and all of a sudden I'm trying not to miss.
Now that part has always stuck with me. Maybe it was because it was a sexy bath scene and I was like 15 at the time. The story of his attitude going from "bring it on, I'll hit the ball, I want to hit that ball," going from that to "don't miss the ball," that really hit home with me. I remember during baseball games after I watched that movie, as a center field player, I would say to myself, "hit it to me, hit it to me, hit it to me," over and over again. And actually, what's funny is I started saying it out loud to myself, and I gradually got louder out in the outfield. Sometimes the infielders heard me, and one time the catcher told me that he heard it. You know, and it just brings to mind, I wonder if it affected the batter when he heard me say that. Like in the movie Blended, when Tyler affected the mustachioed pitcher when he gave him the stink eye. I bet you remember that scene.
All right. Nice cut. Slow it down a little bit. Bend those knees, balance, okay? Take care of this. That's it. Elbow up, higher. Now remember the stink eye.
The mustache is rattled.
Come on, Tyler, let's go!
Take them deep.
And a lot of people criticize Adam Sandler movies, but let me tell you, I freaking love them. I try to have this bring it on attitude in poker and everything else in life. If I'm taking part in something, I really want to be a part of it. I want the action. There's no standing on the sidelines for this guy. This is recently translated to my paintball game. I recently got back into paintball. And when I'm on the field, I hate standing in the back behind a bunker, lobbing paintballs at the opposing team. I just want to move, and get in a position to shoot my opponents. I don't want to shoot like 50 paintballs, hoping that one of them eventually hits. I want to get so close that I could just double tap the sucker. So if you ever get dealt pocket aces and you say to yourself, I hope this doesn't get cracked again, then you know you've got the wrong attitude. Instead, I want you to say, yes, pocket aces. How am I going to make the most money with this hand? Or you can say something like, great hand, great chance to make some money. Let's find and execute the most positive EV decisions, baby. That is the bring it on attitude of a winner. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/smartpokerstudy. They have over 180,000 titles to choose from. And actually, I've been saying that for a while. They probably have over 190,000, maybe 200 by now. But, along with all those books, or as part of all those books that they have my books, How to Study Poker Volumes 1 and 2. And if you're looking for another piece of poker content, I'm on the Audible site right now, and I just typed in the search form poker. And they have so many different audiobooks here. Go to audibletrial.com/smartpokerstudy. Get that free 30-day trial. Grab any poker book or just any book in general. Start listening to it, and I guarantee you're going to get so much out of audiobooks. You can actually do dishes while you're learning. You can do dishes while you're entertained listening to your favorite Stephen King novel, Wizard in Glass. Whatever it is, Audible's got it for you. And just one quick shout out today. Johnny Scarlett got the Smart Poker HUD from me. Thank you so much, Johnny. I trust that you're exploiting those opponents, taking stacks and stacks off of them, but just don't do it against me. So if you want to buy the Smart HUD, just go to smartpokerstudy.com/smarthud, just like Johnny did. Alrighty, back to class, poker people. Let's get to some self-help recommendations. For some people, self-help is a bad word. It's like a bad 8-letter word with the dash in the middle. So they feel that they're perfect the way they are, and there's nothing to improve. I have never felt that way about myself. My entire life has been about just self-improvement and working to do and to be better. I read books and I listen to podcasts that I think can help me. So first, I want to give 3 podcast recommendations to you. And of course, go to the show notes for links to these various podcasts. The first is the Quick Brain podcast, and I love this one. Jim Quick is a big proponent of mental health, physical health, and working to develop your memory. The podcast gives tons of strategies and shortcuts to better memory and to better learning as well. So I highly recommend this one. Another one I love is called The Model Health Show. Sean Stevens and Jade Harrell do this podcast, and they talk about everything health related. Not just physical health, but mental health, spiritual health, financial health, relationship health, all that jazz. In a recent podcast, number 256 with Jarek Robbins, I learned something super interesting. A couple episodes ago, I talked about eat, sleep, and move to improve your life, right? Well, Jarek Robbins talked about a really interesting idea that totally made this concept hit home even harder with me. When you're in a war situation and you're captured by the enemy, what do they do with you? Do they give you great food? Do they let you sleep? Do they send a masseuse to your room? No, none of that crap at all. The first thing they do is they take away your sleep. They play loud music, they throw buckets of water at you, and they make you sleep standing up. It's basically psychological torture by not letting you sleep. Because of this, your mind doesn't work like it should, and you're more prone to giving them critical information. The next thing they take away is nutrition. All you get is a moldy piece of bread and some dirty stream water. You'd be lucky to find a cockroach in your cell. No avocados, no olive oil, nor fish for your dinner. This deprives you of the nutrients your body needs to function optimally. And of course, the last thing they take away from you is your movement. They lock you in a tiny 5x5 cell, and you don't get any exercise, nor do you get any sunlight. This degrades your body, sapping your strength and your will to live. Does this sound familiar to you? This is exactly what we do when we claim we're too busy to eat healthy, get enough sleep, or take the time to exercise. We are torturing ourselves when we do this. We're too busy, so we're eating McDonald's and we're drinking Red Bulls. We're staying up late, and we skip on the exercise in order to put one more hour of work in. This was a great podcast, and I learned a ton from it. The last podcast I want to recommend is the James Altucher Show, and this is a great one. James talks to he talks to super successful people, and you get to learn from them about the things they do that brought them their success. In a recent podcast, he interviewed Ray Dalio, the legendary hedge fund manager. In his latest book called Principles, Ray Dalio gives an equation for a successful life that he talked about on the podcast as well. Here's the equation: dreams plus reality plus determination equals a successful life. I freaking love this equation. The dreams part of the equation is about knowing what you want from life, your true aspirations and desires. The reality part of the equation is about accepting the world around you. Sure, maybe you have limitations, but the world is full of opportunity. Accept the reality, but know there's a way to get to your dreams. And the last part of that equation was determination. This is where you learn how to deal with reality, and you develop the habits that will take you to your goals, your dreams. Hard work and determination will get you there. So those were the 3 podcasts that I highly recommend everybody check out. Now, I love reading books as well. I'm not going to dive too much into the books I'm recommending here, as I have discussed them all before on prior podcasts, but they're so good that they each deserve to be read by you. I'm holding all 3 here with me. And yes, you heard holding. I love physical books. I know a lot of people just buy the Kindle form or the ebook form. Well, ebook, Kindle, PDF I meant to say. But no, I only read fiction in electronic form. So I'm holding right now in my hand The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. I talked about this extensively in podcast number 3, way back in the day. You can always find that at smartpokerstudy.com/pod3. But this book is all about finding that one thing that you need to do every day to move the needle the furthest. Do that one most important thing every single day. If you do that, you're going to end up writing your next book, starting your podcast, becoming the great poker player you want to be. Whatever your goal is, do the one most important thing that leads you to your goal every day. The next book I'm holding right here is called Mindset, and it's by Carol Dweck. I talked about it back in episode 74. She talks so much about mindset and how mindset is important in learning and to be successful in life. And one of the biggest things that I got out of this book was the idea of having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. A growth mindset basically believes that, hey, I am not limited by how I was born, my education level. I'm only limited by my imagination. The harder I work, the more I study, the better I'm going to get. That's what the growth mindset is. The fixed mindset is, hey, I'm only as smart as I'm ever going to be right now, so why work harder? And the final book is called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. I spoke about it way back in episode number 13. I love this book. This got me to wake up earlier every morning to do the important things first thing in the morning that are going to really get me started, get me propelled through my day. If you have some early successes in the morning, I say I don't know about you. If I have early successes in the morning, it's going to make me more motivated to keep working hard to have more successes throughout the day. So I really recommend The Miracle Morning. And soon to be read, I'm going to read a book called Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. I'll tell you about that one after I read it. Challenge! Here's my challenge to you for this episode. Choose one of the podcasts or books I recommended and listen or read to it. Heck, you can also listen to the books through Audible, baby! So work on yourself by learning from others. Now it's your turn to take action and do something positive for your poker game.
Oh, that's it now. Get out there and be somebody. Go write a book.
This episode isn't complete until you head to the show notes page at www.smartpokerstudy.com/pod171. Go there for screenshots and links to all the good outside content I discussed today, and go there to discover ways in which you can support the podcast. Thank you so much for listening today. Make sure if you've got an Alexa that you enable my flash briefing skill. Just search for Smart Poker Study in the Amazon Alexa store. If you could type the word Smart Poker Study, you can find me on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and now on Share My Pair. And if you have any questions, I have answers. Send me an email to sky@smartpokerstudy.com. Alrighty, poker people, next week in episode 172, I will wrap up the entire MED series and tell you my big plans for it. Plus, I'll give you my smarter goals for 2018. So word of mouth is the best advertising, and I thank you very much for sharing this show with other poker people. Your sharing and caring is what helps us grow. Until next time, study smart, play much, and make your next session the best one yet.